I'd like to call on Mademoiselle Lucy Centeni to lead us in the pledge, please.
Je jure fidélité au drapeau des États-Unis d'Amérique et à la République qu'elle représente, une nation à la grâce de Dieu, indivisible avec liberté et justice pour tous.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. Et merci bien, Lucy. Merci bien. And thank you very much, Ove Como Jr. ROTC. We appreciate your helping us with this presentation. Dr. Chasson, you wanted a minute before we...
Yeah, really quickly. I didn't know if anyone was here concerning the Academy of Health Careers. Can I get a raise of hands if anybody was here to? Okay, I wanted to read to you guys really quick. There was a press release issued out today from Robin Olivier, and it states that it has been incorrectly reported that the Lafayette Parish School Board would be considering the movement of the Academy of Health Careers from Lafayette High School to another school at tonight's board meeting. There has been no official discussion at the district level to this effect, nor has an agenda item been brought before board members for consideration. An information report from the Geographic Planning and Demographic Services will be presented to the board at tonight's meeting. The report recommends establishing a process for identifying and implementing any program relocations that could help alleviate current facility overcrowding for the upcoming 2016-2017 school year. No specific programs have been identified in the report. All of that basically means we have no idea where the discussion has come about, the rumor. So it's not to hold anyone hostage. If you want to stay, please, we're happy to have you. But basically that means I haven't heard anyone talk about, oh, we're moving that program. So I don't know where it came from. So if you wanted to leave, go ahead. If you want to stay, happy to have you stay. But listen, again, no one's talked about it. And I heard about it for the first time this morning when I dropped my son off. So if I hadn't heard about it, then it's not a reality. Okay? All right.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Yes, very briefly. Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Aguilar, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you to please look into this and find out, just make sure that this didn't come from the district or even the school level, because this is misinformation, wrong information, incorrect information, and we want to make sure that this is not coming out of,
Yes, yes, sir. And Mr. Hidalgo, it did not come out of the district offices. I want you to know that.
Dr. Aguilar, do you have opening comments, sir?
I do. Special congratulations to Como High School and the speech and debate team and sponsor, Sandra Broussard. Because of the hard work and excellence of her squad, Sandra Broussard has earned a 5th Diamond Degree membership in the National Speech and Debate Association's Honor Society. Ms. Broussard will be recognized at the 2016 National Speech and Debate Tournament in Salt Lake City, Utah on Thursday, June 16. She will also be recognized in the Rostrum magazine. Again, congratulations to the speech and debate team at Como High School and their sponsor, Sandra Broussard, on this outstanding accomplishment. David Thibodeau STEM Academy students are waiting anxiously for the launch of their science project into space aboard the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. The launch date has been postponed twice, but is now scheduled for March 22nd at 11:50 p.m. David Thibodeau is one of 14 high schools internationally selected to develop a biomedical and robotic experiment to stay aboard the International Space Station for 30 days. They did a presentation during the October 14, 2015 board meeting. A team of students from Early College Academy and their sponsors, Ms. Vicki Hebert and Ms. Amanda Guidry, have been contacted to have their team participate in the National We the People Speech and Debate Competition in Washington, D.C. on April 22 and 23, 2016. The cost of each student attending is $1,500, and fundraising efforts are underway. If anyone would like to contribute, please contact Ann Castile at ECA. I would like to acknowledge that Governor John Bell Edwards has signed a proclamation identifying March 17, 2016 as Retired Teachers Day. I want to personally thank retired teachers for their years of service they dedicated to enriching the lives of our children in Lafayette specifically. Lafayette Parish Arts Festival is coming to a close on Saturday, March 12th. There will be a reception from 4 to 5:30 at the Cité des Arts for the Visual Arts Exhibition, and the Art Walk is from 6 to 9 p.m. This will be the conclusion of a month-long arts festival by the talented program students of our district. And tonight we are blessed with an abundant number of individuals that we want to recognize tonight, including the Acadiana High soccer team, the Winter Arts Competition winners, and the teachers selected as our 2016-2017 Teachers of the Year recipients. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dr. Aguilar. And one of the first things he mentions is the next thing we want to recognize, and that's the achievements of the Acadiana High School boys soccer team, who most recently competed in the finals of the Division I state soccer tournament.
May I please have a second to prepare for this?
You can take 2 or 3 if you want.
All right. Looking good.
Little throwback Wednesday from when my boy played for Coach Jan.
There you go.
You gotta show your true colors. I put on a little weight. Now I'm ready if we could recognize Principal David Lejeune and Head Coach Jan Scott Richard and our Acadiana Wrecking Ram state runner-ups.
Dr. Aguilar, Ms. Angel, and other members of the board, would like to publicly take this opportunity to thank y'all for allowing us to be here tonight. And I also have an opportunity to thank Coach Richard and the members of the team, and also our sponsor, Ms. Deb Hill, for the amount of pride and enjoyment that they've given to the school and the community throughout this soccer season. Last couple of years, they made it to the semifinals, came up short, did an outstanding job this year, and had an opportunity to play St. Paul's in the finals. So, guys, thank y'all very much. Acadiana High really, really appreciates it. Thank y'all. All right. And at this time, it gives me great pleasure to call up Coach Richard.
I won't take too much of your time. Dr. Aguilar, Britt Lachele, Mary Marson, who represent the Acadiana High area and the Scott community, thank you for giving us this opportunity to be recognized. Obviously, to my boys, it was a pretty concerted effort on their end. A lot of people didn't give us a shot to get this far again. And, we kind of overcame some obstacles throughout the season. This team went 25-3-6. We lost 3 games, 2 of those to one opponent, the other one obviously in the state finals to St. Paul's. We hadn't lost a game since December 12th of last year, so we went almost 9-10 weeks without losing a game. So kudos to the boys for staying focused in any sport. as you all know, it's very difficult to go in a streak of any sort, but a streak of that nature, just to fall short in the finals, is a huge, huge commendation for those boys. So again, to Dr. Aguilar and to Britt and to Mary, who represent our area, and to all the board, and to the parents and the community of Scott for the send-off, for those that got to witness it or see it. It was a huge send-off. It meant a lot to the boys. It's an experience that I, as a coach, I, as a member of the Council of Scott, I, as a citizen of the city of Scott, will never forget. We've sent the football team off many times, as you all know, but it was very special for our kids to get that type of treatment, and we appreciate that. And that goes to the administration of Acadiana High with Mr. Lejeune and the faculty there and the students as well, and obviously Ms. Hill, who was our sponsor. Also, we don't want to ever forget the people that raise these young boys, which are our parents. And it's a tough day and age to raise kids. As I know, I have kids of my own, and so our parents are one of a kind. They have done everything, not only to support me, but to support their kids and to support our program. So with that being said, again, thank you for this opportunity to be recognized. We proudly support Acadiana High. We wear our jersey with a lot of pride in not only the school, but in our community. And we're also very proud to be part of Lafayette Parish. Thank you.
Don't forget, guys, once a Ram, always a Ram.
The next group that we wish to recognize are those who competed in the Winter Arts Competition. Dr. Aguilar or Ms. Samick or Mr. Guidry?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Annette Samick, Chief Academic Officer. I'm actually filling in for Paget Guidry, our art specialist who could not be here tonight. If we could just wait one moment for our students to enter, and we'll begin our program.
Not going to do it.
What I would like to do is recognize the kindergarten through 5th grade winners. Dr. Aguilar, if you would join us in for the photo op, and also Mr. Angel. I do want to say thank you to all of the participants. The judges had a very difficult time in selecting our winners. And if you were in the school board office during January or February, you did see all of the artwork on display, and it was beautiful. In our kindergarten through 5th grade honorable mention, first winner is Lucy Centeni for Streetcar. Myrtle Place Elementary School, 2nd grade teacher Randall LeBray. Honorable mention, Naviana Alfred, Mr. Throw Me Something from Alice Boucher Elementary School, fifth grade teacher Ann Hinkle. Teachers, if you are here, please join us for the picture on up front, please. Third place, Griffin Lejeune for Gunther, Woodvale Elementary School, fourth grade teacher Randall Labrie. Second place winner, Braylon Dodar from for his work, Grand Isle, J.W. Falk Elementary School, fifth grade teacher Celeste Scott. And our first place winner in kindergarten through fifth grade, Inez Zawi, Pelican Prairie Elementary School, fifth grade teacher Randall Labrie. And now for our middle school winners, 6th through 8th grades. Honorable mention, Gabriel LeBlanc, New Orleans Flower, LJ Alamo Middle School, 7th grade teacher Dixie Hunley. Honorable mention, and our guest is not here this evening, our artist, Camry Agari, Tree at Dusk from Broussard Middle, 8th grade teacher is Pammy Pry. We have a third place winner, Trinity LeBlanc, Bayou Sunset, Paul Bro Middle School, 6th grade teacher is Ann Boudreau. Our second place winner in middle school, Brooks Ritter, St. Louis Cathedral, Youngsville Middle School, 8th grade teacher Harrison Johnson. And our first place winner in middle school, Zoe Hall, Louisiana Life, LJ Alamo Middle School, 8th grade teacher Lena Battle. And now for our high school category. Honorable mention, Emma Middleman, Louisiana Blossom, Como High School, 11th grader, teacher Brian LaFay is not with us this evening. Our other honorable mention, Kylan Zion, Pelican Pieces, Northside High School, 10th grade, teacher Liz Abear. Third place high school winner, Le Liliana Bado in the Swamp, Lafayette High School, 9th grade teacher Babette Castile. Second place winner, Mia Benoit, Pelican of Louisiana, Lafayette High School, 11th grade, teacher Juanita Landry. And for high school, our first place winner, Ja'Cory Babineau for POPs, Carencro High School, 11th grade, teacher Pam Lane. And Ja'Cory, if you'll come back this way. We have one last contest. It is the Art Expo poster. The winner was Ja'Cory Babineau with a Chafalaya Gator. Carencro High School 11th grader, teacher Pam Lane. Thank you to all of our winners for the Lafayette Parish School System Winter Arts Competition. Another round of applause for all of our winners.
I think they're going to be a group leaving. I think, Ms. Samick, since you have the floor, I'll give it back to you. We're going to talk about and recognize Teacher of the Year awards.
Thank you so much. Tonight we are gathered to recognize and congratulate our 2016-17 Teacher of the Year recipients. Each teacher was nominated and selected by their peers, which also makes this a very special award for everyone. I will announce the schools in alphabetical order. Dr. Aguilar and Mr. Angel, and school board members for the district the teacher is employed. If you would please join the teacher front and center for a picture. And I also want to say thank you to the Lafayette Schools Credit Union. They do have a small gift for every Teacher of the Year from the schools. So thank you. In alphabetical order, Acadian Middle, Tara Williamson. Acadiana High School, Matthew Rayon. LJ Alama Middle School, Nicole Pommier. Alice Boucher Elementary School, Noel Perkins. Paul Bro Middle School, Karen Lachele. Broadmoor Elementary School, Mary Gotro. Broussard Middle School, Lisa Smith. Charles M. Burke Elementary School, Elizabeth Arian. W.D. Mary Baker Smith Career Center, Katisha Lathan. Carencro Heights Elementary School, Catherine Katie Blair. Carencro High School, Daniel Kaisermore. Carencro Middle School, Velma Leonard. Como High School, Charles Young. Catherine Drexel, Amy Ellis. Doosan Elementary School, Jasmine McLeod. Early College Academy, SLCC, Amanda Guidry. Evangeline Elementary School, Lauren Dugas. J.W. Falk Elementary, Caitlin Harris. Ernest Gellett Elementary School, Valerie St. Dizier. J. Wallace James Elementary, Pamela Brzezinski. Judice Middle School, Amanda Shackelford. El Leo Judice Elementary, Lisa Labarat. Lafayette High School, Lindsay Smith Doucet. Lafayette Middle School, Mindy Sachon. Green Tea Linden Elementary, Bridget Hewlin. Apparently not present here tonight, or are we out of order? No, we're not here. Okay, not here tonight. Live Oak Elementary School is Stacy Mercer. Present tonight, Edgar Martin Middle School, Ann Wolf. Milton Elementary School, Christine Cassidy. And absent tonight for Milton Middle School is Amanda St. Julian. S.J. Montgomery Elementary School, Nicole Bernard. Is your mom here? Is your mom here? Myrtle Place Elementary School, Eileen Keefe. NP Moss Prep, Jason Herbstler. Hey Sharon, congratulations. Northside High School, Sharon Pierre. Austin Elementary School, Carly Rozelle. Plantation Elementary School, Christy Fugele. Prairie Elementary School, Chastity Kress. Ridge Elementary School, Nicole Melanson. Scott Middle School, Melissa Cormier. David Thibodeau STEM Academy, Jessica Aubrey. and that is for middle school. David Thibodeau STEM for high school, Shawandalan Johnson. Truman Montessori, Kelly Chitty. There was a bet I'd mispronounce that one. West Side Elementary School, Octavia Jason. Woodvale Elementary School, Melody Gallette. Youngsville Middle School, Lacey Carroll. And before announcing our top winners for each category for the Lafayette Parish 2016-17 Teacher of the Year, I would like to introduce members from the Lafayette Schools Credit Union who will be making a special presentation to our top winners. Joining us tonight is Angela Morrison and Katie Tomplay, and Katie will do a brief presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Angel, board members, Superintendent Aguilar, and all in attendance tonight. My name is Kay Trek Tomplay, and I'm with Lafayette Schools Credit Union. I'm the Business Development Officer. With me today is Angela Morrison, Marketing Supervisor. We are honored and excited to be with you this evening, representing our members to present each of the District Teachers of the Year with a $500 check in honor of their outstanding contributions to the success of their students, their colleagues, their individual schools, and to the school system. Teachers, the checks are made payable to the school to do as you wish. It is our way of helping each of you to continue to advance your efforts in teaching and shaping our next generation. We are proud to be a collaborating partner with the school system. Have a wonderful evening and congratulations again.
I don't know, Katie, thank you, but I saw some principals smile when you said the school's made out to the check. I mean, the check's made out to the school. I saw, look at John over there. I mean, come on, John. So the Teacher of the Year winners from each elementary, middle, and high schools were interviewed and had a portfolio assessed by judges. Each applicant was scored on significant positive impact on student learning, rigorous standards-based instructional practices, and ability to invest and inspire colleagues, community, families, and students. The Lafayette Parish winner for elementary schools is Ms. Carly Rozelle. Ms. Rozelle is a second grade teacher at Alston and has 7 years of experience. The Lafayette Parish winner for middle schools, Ms. Lisa Smith. Ms. Smith is a library science teacher at Broussard Middle and has 12 years of experience. The Lafayette Parish winner for high schools is Lindsay Smith-Doucet. Ms. Smith-Doucet is a French 1, English 4 teacher at Lafayette High School and has 11 years of experience. Congratulations to our top winners, and thank you to the Lafayette Schools Credit Union for your contribution.
As I always mention at this time, if you have another function to attend, you may take leave at this time. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay. Next on our agenda item is approve. Ms. Morris?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the minutes listed under Section 3 and accept the financial information and reports listed under Section 4 in Globo.
Second.
Okay, motion seconded by Mr. Centini that we in effect approve 3.1, 4.1 through 4.4. Madam Secretary. Any questions or discussion from any members of the audience? From any members of the board? If not, Madam Secretary, we call for the vote.
Seven for, none against.
Okay, motion carried. Under information reports, Shining Light Foundation, Dr. Aguilar, Ms. French.
Inviting me today. Some of you may be aware of the Shining Light Foundation. We're a small group of volunteers who want the children in this school system to fully participate in their school activities. We all know about students who sat in the classroom when everybody else went on a field trip, or about the students who wanted to be in the band, but they couldn't afford the instruments. So we started this group some years ago. I just got a rundown. The number of students we've helped is about 338. We have helped a total of 1,369 students, and we have given almost $60,000. And sometimes it's $4, sometimes it's for a field trip, sometimes it's $400 to be in the band. We are the agency of last resort. Only teachers and school personnel can ask for funds from us. But I wanted you all to know that we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization funded largely by personal funds for those of us who care about the school system. And we get some funds from organizations like Junior League or Pinhook Foundation. We have received funds from Gannett. We are having our annual fundraiser next Tuesday on April 19th. Let me give you that. So that, and I wanted to invite you all to come. It will be the Zydeco Cajun Bash, and the most famous Zydeco Cajun bands donate their time. We've done this several years in a row, and there will be 200, 300 of your best friends there. The ticket price is only $15, and you have an evening of dancing, and you also have dinner. Millicent at Vermilionville has prepared a menu I know you'll like with jambalaya, fried catfish, and bread pudding. Our board of directors allowed me to have one complimentary ticket for Dr. Aguilard. And when I asked them for complimentary tickets for all the board, they said, oh, surely the board would prefer to pay for theirs since it is a fundraiser, right? So when you hear about the Shining Light Foundation, I want you to know that it was just formed by an ordinary person who was that child who asked, why aren't there scholarships for little kids? Why should there only be scholarships for big ones? So we only exist within Lafayette Parish. We only serve the students grades K through 8 in Lafayette Parish public schools. We only respond to requests from school personnel, not from the public. So when teachers know that a student has a need, they let us know, and we never say no. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think Dr. Aguilard said that since the board members make so much more money than him, he'll go ahead and accept the ticket. Next on our information report is young kids making a change. Ms. Broussard, Ms. Johnson.
Right here. Mr. President, Mr. President, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come before the board. The soccer coach said it best, it's so difficult to raise a kid. I met Miss Jasmine Johnson about a month or so ago, and she was telling about the program she's starting up at NP Moss Prep. Most of the time, those who are working with challenged youth is there for political gain or financial gain. Very few people take the time to put their heart into to a job that they want to do and made it be successful. We often use the phrase, it takes a village to raise a kid, but that's only when the lights are on and the audience are looking at you. Then when the audience are gone, then move on to something else. But I'm going to ask Ms. Johnson to share with the board her organization and some of the kids. I hope she brought some of the kids with her. And I'm going to make a comment after she finished. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Johnson. As many of you, I'm a little nervous, but as many of you may know, we have a rising problem in the community. We have a lot of youth that are at risk. I'm not the person that's on the outside looking in. I'm on the inside. I do have a kid that is at risk as well. I'm not ashamed to bring it out or introduce him. He's in the audience tonight. So I know what it is to have that particular type of kid at home. So that's what motivated me to start this group, Young Kids Making a Change. And it is a community-based group, but I also need cooperation from the school board, and any volunteers that want to assist to make this group a success. We want to save our youth. Our youth is our future, and that is my motive. I'm not going to be long. If anyone want further information, I will leave my business cards regarding with the organization name and the information on the back table, and you're welcome to email me, call me at any time. Any volunteers, any teachers that want to volunteer, any educators, everyone is welcome. We just need to do what it takes to save our youth. Thank you.
Mr. Broussard? Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
We want to emphasize that even though she started there some time ago, but we don't want to limit that just to the kids at NP Moss Prep. The kids, any student at any school that is having problems, or any parent, we often say that when something happened, where's the parent? Well, you don't have to come from a broken home to make mistakes. Right. You can come from well-to-do home to make mistakes. So let's not say this is a social economical issue and it's not mine, it's ours. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
I think this principal is the principal. Oh, Ms. Duhon. I mentioned to Ms. Duhon that we're going to be making this presentation. She was fearful that it's going to be something bad. It's not bad. She does an excellent job, her and the staff, with what she has to work with. And I must say, the first time we met, it wasn't pleasant, because I told her and the officer that was there, who was a friend of mine, that I wanted to close the school. And I left it that way. And as soon as I left, phone calls were made. Elroy came in, Mr. Broussard came in and said he wanted to close the school. So a police officer hadn't talked to me for about 3 or 4 months. And he finally got up enough nerve to ask me. He said, I voted for you, and this is what you want to do to me. But I explained to him that if all of us do our job, if the parents, the teachers, the counselors, and everybody else do their job and help solve the discipline problem in the city, then there's no need for NP Moss Prep. So that's what we spoke for a while. He understood where I was coming from. Now he's on board with trying to help to alleviate their situation. There's a study that's taking place out of Washington, D.C. I'm not going to sustain an investigation. That's a study. And the only way we can tackle this problem and solve it if we put it on the table realistically as to why schools like NP Moss Prep have a population of 99.5% of kids that look like me. When the report comes out, I don't think it's as important why, but what can we do to solve it? So that's why I'm on board with Ms. Johnson and whoever else want to volunteer for that, to bring the kids back in the community and to help Ms. Duhon and her staff and to do the best job we possibly can to close the school. That's what we want to do. And to the parents that's on the verge of going, so please don't call me at the 11th hour and say my child is going to be going to NP Moss Prep. Well, then we can't do anything. I've got a problem with 7 and 8-year-old kids on the campus with 17 and 18-year-old young adults. We had a problem with putting 7 and 8-year-old kids on a bus with high school students, but we don't have a problem with 7 and 8-year-old kids on the same campus with 17 and 18-year-old. Even though they're not together, I don't want to paint a negative picture. They're not together, they're separate, and she's doing a good job of doing that. But we have to start with our babies, the 7 and 8-year-old kids, and we're not going to cast out the older ones, but we've got to start at the beginning. So any parents that's listening, if you're having problems with your child, please call your board member so we can go and work with you, get the necessary help you need, so we won't wind up at that facilities and overworking the principal and her staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard. And Ms. Johnson, please know that I'm sure that the staff, the board, and anyone else is more than happy and more than willing to do what we can to help in your endeavor. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for what you're doing. Next on our agenda item are personnel changes for March. Mr. Leininger. I just want you to know I appreciate all the information you've been sending us.
You are going to enjoy the reading. Thank you, President Angel and Dr. Aguilar and board members. you do have personnel changes in front of you. And I don't know whether you have any questions about any of them. I'll certainly be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Langer. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Centeni?
Mr. Leininger, I know you updated us on the different employment levels for each of the funds, but I am looking at the 43 in the 2002 sales tax is now 65 over a year ago, and 64. I guess my question is, were all these other totals updated?
All the other totals are updated based upon what is being pulled out of the Alio system.
Okay.
Now, what we discovered, because I did send some information out to you folks about the change in numbers, I still believe, based upon some recent reporting that we generated, that I still think we're doing some double counting. In the report I sent you this afternoon, I scrubbed 33 retired employees out of the list. So we're still cleaning it up. I'm going to say I'm 1/4% away from getting it square.
Now, the Alio system, that's our accounting system, our financial system?
Yes, sir.
Right? 33 retired employees are not still getting a paycheck, are they?
No.
All right.
I just said, when I got the report today, I'm scanning down it. What are retirees doing on here? So we still have some issues. We also have some different titles for some of the same jobs. So I spoke with my team this afternoon. We're going to go through that entire roster. One is we're going to work to clean the titles up, take some of that. And I apologize for that, but some of this is legacy information that's been sitting in there for a long time. And this is now an opportunity, because of some of the questions you're asking, for us to really get into this and get it completely accurate.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Langer.
Yes, sir.
Next on our agenda item is a rezoning project update and a recommended timeline for implementation. I recognize Mr. Mike Hefner. Mr. Hefner.
Thank you, President Angel, members of the board, Superintendent Aguilar. Good seeing y'all this evening. Hopefully we'll get out of here before the deluge starts, so I'll try to keep my presentation brief. Past several months, I've been working primarily with your elementary and middle school zones. Even though I've been on the board for a long time, when some of those zone line changes took place, you really don't appreciate just what a hodgepodge we ended up with over the years until you really start having to work with the lines and seeing where they are, and how the elementary zones don't fit your middle school zones, and your middle school zones don't fit your high school zones. We have zones that are cut up all over the place. We have zones that are 6 blocks in size, and they're sending kids miles and miles away. Some of those are left over from our DSEG case, which ended 10 years ago. We're under local control for 10 years now. I don't think the board has ever undertaken a comprehensive review of its student assignment plans or its zoning plans. Over the years, we've made changes, spot zones or changes in elementary. We never made a corresponding change to middle schools. We might have made a change to middle school, never made a change to the elementary zone that feeds into it. Same thing on high schools. We had the last major high school rezoning was in '84. We didn't make any corresponding changes to have the middle school zones fit or the elementary school zones fit. So once you start overlaying these lines on top of each other, elementary, the middle, and high school, you really appreciate that it's way past time to clean it up, to straighten it up. And that's why I wanted to come with you to you this evening to firm up the timeline and how we can go about doing this in a logical manner that moves the kids once. Those that end up being moved, we move them once, we don't move them twice. I know early on we were hoping, or there was some discussion about trying to make some changes on the zones and implement them for this coming year. And then the rest of it when the high school zones are implemented next year with the opening of the new high school. And looking at doing that, we would end up similar to what we have now. We would have elementary schools zones going into effect, going into middle school zones, Those middle school zones, however, won't fit into your current high school zones, so you would end up moving kids because your new high school zones would come in the following year. So some of those kids would actually end up moving twice, and I don't think we want to do that. So my recommendation is that we use the coming year for finishing up on our zoning with the spring of next year to tweak any of those zone lines and implement them for the 2017-2018 school year. And I'm talking about elementary through high school. So everybody goes in at one time. Think of it as like a puzzle. You got pieces of the puzzle of your elementary zones, each of your elementary zones being a puzzle piece that fits into the middle school puzzle. And each of those middle school puzzle pieces would then fit into your high school puzzles. What we want to do is eliminate these split zones. We want to try to eliminate, wherever possible, zone lines cutting through the middle of neighborhoods, which we have right now. We want to try to use primary roads. We want to use water features, natural boundaries that make it easier to not only know where your zone line is, but also to help clean up your transportation. Because when you're running some of these buses all through these little neighborhood streets, and you got 2 or 3 buses running there because they're picking up kids and they're sending them to all these elementary schools, for example, 2 or 3 elementary schools may serve one area. It costs a lot of money to do that. So we want to try to clean all of that up. So my recommendation is really I have 3 of them actually. One is that we implement the zones that we come up with in the 2017-2018 school year. Second recommendation is that the board put on the agenda for an upcoming meeting an agenda item that will authorize staff to take a look at your grade spans. Because right now you have a hodgepodge of grade spans. I'm going to use Drexel as one example. Drexel's K5. Okay? We have a zone that actually has K4 that feeds into that. Those kids, when they hit 5th grade, they go to a completely different middle school. They don't follow the ones that, they don't go to the middle school that their friends are going to. They go to a completely different middle school. So one of the objectives we want to do is try to keep these kids together. From the time they come in at kindergarten or pre-K, and try to keep them and have them matriculate through elementary together, into middle school together, and then into high school together. So we don't have a lot of these splits where kids end up at the end of a school year going to a completely different school and 80% of their friends are going to a different school. That causes issues, and we want to try to eliminate that. So we need to look at trying to standardize our grade spans, and staff is in the best position to evaluate that because in some cases we have a particular grade span for a specific reason. It could be capacity, it could be other things, but I would like for you to authorize staff to look at those grade spans and come back to the board with a recommendation for consideration. I think if we can standardize some of that, it's going to make it easier, particularly on our elementary school zoning plans. And beyond that, what I would like to also have the board put on the agenda is an item that would authorize staff to take a look at the programming that we have throughout the parish. Some of this program has been in place for 30 years, some have been in there for 5 years. But staff needs to really have the authorization to go in and take a look at whether we can move or need to move certain programs. I'm not saying which ones, but staff is in the best position to identify those and bring those to the board for consideration. This coming year would be an ideal time if you have any programs to relocate and you accept superintendent's recommendations on those, is to put those in place for the coming school year. Because programs will affect capacity. What's left in that capacity is going to affect where that zone line is going to be. Because I have to adjust the zone line so it fits. So if we can do programming for this coming year, then I will be able to take those numbers and plug those in and finalize the zone numbers as we go into the 2018 implementation. So it's kind of a 2-step process. But I think to really do this properly is to have those 2 agenda items in particular that would authorize staff to conduct that study and come back to the board with its recommendations. So beyond that, that's all I have. I know there was a lot of stuff going out there on social media that there was going to be some changes made tonight, or that there were hidden messages in my memo to y'all. Anybody that knows me and the service I've done on the board knows I'm real straight and I'm real upfront. And with this project, I will be very straight and very upfront. There will be no hidden messages. If I have a recommendation, it's going to be up front and center because I believe the public needs to know what's being brought to the board so that they can weigh in if they so choose. So there's no secret coding or message or anything like this, and I think this board operates in that same manner as they want to have everything up front so people know what's going on. And we will be doing that as we move forward on this project. So beyond that, if I have any questions?
Yes, we do. Mr. Knizik?
Got actually had three questions, two for Mr. Hefner. The first, though, is for Dr. Aguilar, in that do you feel like the board has given you enough authority to already evaluate grade spans and programming with our directive to, I think our directive initially was started with our temporary classrooms and do whatever, and I'm going to summarize it poorly, but it was do what we need to do, tell us what we need to do to get rid of our temporary classrooms. That was the genesis for the rezoning discussion. Then we talked, and I think we authorized you to execute rezoning, which we entered into a contract. So it's my opinion that we gave you enough leeway to do those things exactly. We're expecting, and this is, again, I'm one board member, my opinion, and we can disagree, but I think we've already authorized you to to look at everything, reevaluate grade spans and reevaluate programs as we're moving forward with looking at all the boundary lines. So I'd like your opinion, and
Sure.
then maybe we could discuss it.
I do believe you've given me the authority and the latitude to research opportunities in terms of capacity for schools. In fact, we're bringing to you a small number of spot rezoning recommendations as an introductory item tonight. It's important that we now know that the genesis for a successful rezoning for the district would be based on making advanced moves in terms of programs. So I get that, and I'll be happy to bring to the board some recommendations as early as next month that you can look at and consider for program moves.
I have two questions for Mr. Hefner. And I'd like to open it up. If any board member doesn't think that we've authorized him to do some sort of comprehensive look at grade spans and moving programs, then maybe we should discuss it so that we can enter it into a future agenda item. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Latchley?
I'm going to agree with Mr. Knizik. I think that was the direction we sent when we started rezoning and our Butler buildings and so forth and so on. I think we've discussed that, and I feel comfortable with letting Dr. Aguilar move forward.
Ms. Morris?
Yeah, I also agree, and I wanted to remind everyone that at a recent executive committee meeting, we spent about 3 hours talking with staff and Dr. Aguilar about evaluating the facilities that we have available, the empty classrooms we have available, where they are, and seeing if staff can come up with some ideas about how to make better use of that. One of the things we talked about at length was the use of W.D. Smith, the programs there, and things like that. So I think that we've started along this path already.
Okay, Mr. Hefner, my next two questions are related, and we'll kind of go back, I think, on the two. We originally contracted you for this task, and now that you're into it, it seems that it is going to consume a lot more effort than you expected initially.
Yes.
And so my question to you is, do we need to reevaluate your compensation for the contract?
No, I bid my projects out on a project cost, and whether it takes me more time or less time, that's what the cost is. The thing that always drove me nuts as a board member is when you award a contract and then they finish it in 10 or 12 months, they come back and it's 30 or 40% higher because of whatever, some unforeseen things. It's hard to budget when you have that happen. So my philosophy is I'm going to make the best bid that I can. I'm going to hold to it. So yes, it's going to be more involved, but the price is staying where it is.
Thank you very much. The second question is related to that, in that I feel an obligation to the constituents that we try to give them as much advance notice as we can. I've had several people contact me saying, hey, you know, I'm thinking of moving, I'm thinking of buying a house, I'm thinking of relocating, but when I do this, when I make this investment, I want to make sure that I'm in the pipeline that I want to be in for my schools. And I would like to see, initially we wanted to have at least some sort of draft or some sort of lines out by next month. Initially, we had thought we were going to be able to achieve that. Obviously, now we cannot achieve that. So my question is, can we give the people a year? And that would mean, is it possible to make your December 31st goal a August before school starts goal? And that kind of goes back to the first question in that nothing is impossible. So is there a situation in where you can bring on more staff? We can authorize you overtime. What are the possible, I'm just kind of like throwing it out there, what are the options so that we can get this work done? What can we do to help get this work done by August to give people a full year to make those decisions?
Any programming relocation that you do is going to help me, because I need to know where to put those numbers for those students that are attending that program that are outside of that zone, that reside outside of that zone. So that's the first thing that's going to help. I'll have a pretty good idea on that once the board acts on those. My personal timeline was to try to at least get some draft zones done by September, knowing that when I get the October 1st count and I redo my database, that we may have to tweak some lines, similar to the high school. We have a high school zone draft that we did back in December. We're going to tweak that to try to lower the initial enrollment some. So that's going to come back to you for some little tweaks. I certainly don't mind coming forward with kind of a draft. Let's consider it a rough draft based on program relocation and the data that I have right now, knowing that as we go forward from the October 1st count, maybe to the end of the year, is when we're going to start firming those up. So if somebody's really on the edge, then they may want to kind of hang tight and see what we can do. If they're closer in to what that zone is, I don't see any radical changes on the zones at that point. We'll be nibbling around the edges at that point. So if you're on the edge, stay tuned. If you're kind of on the inside of it, then you're probably pretty safe that if the board adopts that plan, then they'll be going to that feeder zone. So if that helps you, then that's not a problem on my end. I'm about 80% through right now on the elementary zones, but there's some things that we need to know in programming and grade span in particular. Once I finish those and get those nailed down, then I'll build your draft for middle school zones, so I can have an entire elementary zone feed into an appropriate middle school zone, and then that middle school zone into the high school. So that's how it's all going to fit together.
So, but back to the August question, it's highly unlikely that we'll have defined zones by August, but it's likely we will have draft zones by August. And we
Yep.
just have to make very clear that when we publish information, that if someone makes a decision on that data, on that information in August, it's at their own risk, and that we are not necessarily going to finalize those till sometime probably in December.
If they understand that caveat, I don't have a problem making those presentations to the board or what those draft zones are looking like, and also to get your input as well. But just as long as they understand that it's not firmed up until such time as the board actually votes those zones in to be the zones that go into effect for 2017, 2018, then they're subject to change. So if they have any reliance on it, then they're doing that at their own risk. It's kind of like the school calendar. You may have a couple, 2, 3 drafts that y'all are looking at, and if somebody picks a draft and say, well, let's plan vacation around this, and y'all end up adopting something else, well, they can't blame the board for that.
Can you, I know where you have the online drive that you've shared and people can access. Can we put some kind of watermark or something at the top that says not official?
Oh yeah, I will put that on
draft.
Definitely.
Don't buy a house
that
based on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's not unusual. Like some of the desegregation student assignment plans that I put together, we may have one out there, but it's not finalized yet. I will always put that on there as far as a draft, and as of, I'll put a date on there so that we can keep track of any revisions. But I just want to make sure, because I know how, people when they see it, they don't always pay attention to all the history coming into it. They see it and they think it's done, and so they move forward on that assumption, and we may change it a month from after that because of whatever reason. So as long as they understand that these are just rough drafts in August, and we'll be updating with the October 1st counts and the actual programming changes that we may end up having, then we'll finalize those closer to the end of the year, and that's why I had that December date. But I agree with you, getting it, not only do parents need to know ahead of time, staff needs to know as early as possible so they can start planning their staffing and their budget appropriately. Because you're going to start in March of next year on your budget, and really I would like to have this really nailed down by that time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Aguilar, what kind of timeline do you think you can come back to the board with recommendations for the grade span changes and the programming changes? Because I assume that that's not going, I think it's going to fill up the room when we start talking about that stuff.
So I think what I'd like to do is work with Mr. Hefner and take a look at where students are that attend the various academies, take a look at the demographics and the spread and the population. So my guess would be probably sometime early in May to come back to you with some recommendations.
Right. I think it's important that we make sure that we're clear to the audience, to the public, to the people listening, that rezoning is happening. Obviously, we're talking about dates. It looks like the implementation will be August of 2017. We hope to have the final lines drawn by December of 2016. But when we talk about rezoning, we're talking about comprehensive rezoning, which does include the changes of the grade spans, where your school, maybe you go through a K through 8, you go to a K through 8 school. We may decide to change that. It's very important to understand that that is a possibility. Also, a possibility is the possibility of moving programs. So if you attend a certain program at a certain school, it's likely, potential, maybe unlikely that we may move that program. But that's all a part of this discussion. And I just want to make sure that everybody's clear. It's a tough decision we have to make. We don't have adequate revenue to build more schools outside of what you currently know that we're building. 1 in 5 classrooms in Lafayette Parish is a temporary classroom. And we're busing kids all over the parish. I mean, kids are going miles and miles and miles away, and they can't attend schools that are literally right next to their house sometimes. So these are tough decisions that we have to make, but we have to make them. And I think for the board, Dr. Aguilar, when it comes to grade span changes and programming changes, we need to know as soon as we can, because these decisions have to be made.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm thinking regular scheduled meetings, but if we can have the information sooner, I have no problem working with Mr. Angel and scheduling a special board meeting if necessary. I think it's just as soon as we have some recommendations, then it moves from my office to your consideration. So I think you need that information.
Ms. Morris?
And I just want to build just a little bit on what Mr. Knezik said. Part of moving programs may include consolidating programs that may be duplicative in some aspect. And for example, I know there are some individuals here from Lafayette High School's Health Academy. We also have health programs at STEM and also at W.D. Smith. So right now we are offering health programs at 3 different schools. So those are the kind of program changes that staff will be looking at, not just health, but all of the other programs. The other part, and Mr. Knezik touched on this, is that there will likely be changes to how we are transporting kids across the parish, including those kids who are attending schools of choice. So those are additional changes that we are including in what we're calling rezoning as a general term. So again, I think we want to make sure everybody is aware well in advance that changes are more than likely coming from several different angles and affecting several different things, okay?
Dr. Chasson?
Mr. Hefner. No, actually, Dr. Aguilar. So these program possible relocations, I know I understand the definition of words. Identify is one thing. That's the first part in your office. Then implementing would be our decision whether to change it. That would be for the start of school, August 2016. Because that's what I understand Eric's request of a possible timeline delay or backing it up. Is that what you were basically getting at?
Well, I wanted to be able to get the lines out by August of 16, but I don't think we can do that, just to give people a year before we implement in August of 17.
Okay. So the actual lines can't be drawn until the actual programs are relocated, because you actually need that data for the October 1 count.
That's
So
why
he's
they can't be
actually
finalized.
requesting program relocations for August of 2016. So as soon as we can get those in, does that make sense? Am I understanding
I
that
don't think
correct?
he means implementing I don't think we're
No.
talking about implementing the program changes in August of 16.
Well,
And Dr. Chasson, my appreciation is that, yes, it would be physically possible to make recommendations and move programs by 2016. However, once we determine that a program is to be moved, then we could stage that program move at the same time as rezoning takes place. As long as Mike knows where the program is set to be, we could delay that until 2017 and still produce comprehensive zone lines. Is that correct?
Yeah, if need be. The only unknown would be is how many of the students would stay with the program move. But typically when we move programs in the past, we kind of hear, well, if they move the program, my child's not going to go. We may have a few drop out, but most of them follow the program. If they believe in the program, they follow the program. So with that caveat there, if we're going to make a program move in 17, and we can use what the enrollment is and try to project that into the new location, make the adjustments as necessary with the zone lines, knowing that you may have some students that may show up, some may not. We also may be moving it into a zone where you have a large number of kids that are attending that program out of zone, and now you're moving the zone into their home zone. So that ends up simplifying things a little bit as well, and I think that's what the superintendent would like to take a look at. So each of these programs, let's take a look at where those students are distributed. We may want to take a look at the facility closest to the greatest concentration of students that are attending that program. That certainly would do a lot to help on your transportation. So those are a lot of little variables that come in. I want to make sure that we leave enough adequate time to get this thing done right. The last thing you want to do is come in and having to implement it and start making a lot of little changes here and there. That upsets people. We want to make sure we do it and we do it right, and try to move them only one time. So we can do it in some of those programs in 17. The only thing is we just won't have a firm number of how many will move with the program. I don't really see where it's going to be enough that's going to make a radical change to the zone line at that point in time.
Okay, so I want to make sure that Dr. Chasson and I are clear. The document we were looking at on page 2, it does say identify and implement any program relocations, and this is for the start of 16. So I know we don't know what the recommended program changes are yet, but I want to know if we're all talking about its potential. We may choose to move some programs as early as next year.
My preference would be move as many that you can for the coming year.
Okay.
Because that way my October numbers are going to be nailed down, because they'll include the ones that have moved with the program.
And because that's clear, the intent, will certainly work as quickly as we can to come back to you with some recommendations.
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm clear, and I want to make sure that the students that are here and the parents that are here and those that are concerned about the potential moving of their program, yes, is dismal a news as it may be, and as hard as it may be to swallow, it is possible your program, whatever program you're in, may move as early as next year. And it's unfortunate, and if it's disruptive, I guarantee you we apologize, but it is a reality that we're facing. So I want to make sure we're clear. It is possible that your special program that you're in may move next year. Thank you.
Mr. Hidalgo, and then
Mr. Knezik, I want to, what you said is right on the money, but we haven't talked about this yet, or at least I haven't been part of the conversation. So let's go ahead and make the news. We're talking about moving programs, but we haven't talked about the budget deficit that we're facing and the fact that moving a program might be a lot better than the alternative and cutting a program or two. So, I think that we need to keep our eyes on the ball here, because we have a lot of challenges, and rezoning is not our main challenge, unfortunately.
Dr. Chasson?
That's a really good point that he just made. a lot of folks at home and in the audience do need to realize that with the budget deficit and us pulling the tax and everything under the sun, something that I've been screaming at the top of a mountain about is that we needed to trim the deficit as much as possible and not fill it in and substitute some things and move things from one account to another, because the real possibility is that we will have to possibly close a program or shut a program down, which is a possibility. Hopefully we can avoid that. I know we can, but I mean, I've heard folks say, trim everything at the central office and work with the bare bones of what you need. But at the same time, even if you did that, that still doesn't even put a real dent into the actual deficit. Everyone thinks it does, but it doesn't. So Dr. Aguilar, with the possible program relocation, is that the earliest that and it isn't to pressure you guys into giving us a recommendation as soon as possible, but as soon as possible would be the most probable thing that we could hopefully hope for, because if we can get that information out sooner, process it, not to have you guys rush to a judgment, because obviously, I mean, y'all are the experts. We expect y'all to take your time and come to us with a recommendation. That is the best thing. But as soon as we can get that, then if the board wants to wait on it, per maybe some of the board members' requests, or if we want to act on it, that'll be fine. But at least we can get that information and start disseminating it. And as well, just I'd like to caution some of the board members ahead of time, what you will eventually get, and I guess with me and Tommy being more of the senior than tenured members on the board, you will start to get emails and phone calls saying that if you send that program there, I'm not sending my child, I'm going to de-enroll my kid, everything under the sun. It was the same thing that occurred with the gifted program moving to Paulboro Middle. It's the exact same thing. And I got 2 emails today and responded to both of them saying that, Timmy, I heard you want to move the health academy to Northside. That was the first time that I had heard it come from someone else. And then seeing parents here as well. Programs moving, I know it's not a very popular thing, but at the same time, don't get caught into the rhetoric of someone making demands and threats on a particular school, because I'm not sending my child there. Because if folks knew that Northside was a much better neighborhood than where Paulboro is in the hood. So let me let everyone know that once you make that right on South Orange and you come down, that's the hood, that's Macomb, my mom lives a block from Paulboro. So Mr. Craig taught there, he didn't have any problems. It's a wonderful school. So everyone keep their minds open, don't jump to any conclusions, wait till we actually get the recommendations first, and then contact your board member and let them know how you feel about it.
Thank you, Timmy. Ms. Morrison?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure, like transportation, we talked about the budget, and we don't want to make the budget even worse than it is. So we're considering transportation and, where the kids are going to, so everyone's going to, you're going to provide transportation for everyone. It doesn't matter where we change the program. So transportation will not be an issue. I just want to know how you're going to factor transportation in your decision making.
We are studying a number of different modes of transportation, particularly for schools of choice and specialty programs. So we want to bring that to you in the budget discussions. And Dr. Chasson, I understand the sense of urgency that you want to get this information as soon as possible. So we're going to be working to bring you some recommendations. One of the things I'm wondering, and I'd love some feedback from board members, do you anticipate that moving a program would have any impact on our district administrative rule that's in place, particularly when we open new schools or we change grade configuration? Would you expect rising students would be protected in a program? Maybe a junior or a senior in a program staying for the last 2 years at that school and allow the program to move. Let's say it's a high school program and freshmen and sophomores would begin at the new location. Is there any, do you have any wish to pursue that administrative rule for protection for students.
Mr. Lachele?
I'll hold off on my question so that this can be discussed.
Mr. Knizik?
My response would be yes. We would use the policy that we have in place, and it would be the parents' and students' choice whether they wanted to move with the program or stay in the school that they're in.
Mr. Dalgo?
My response, Dr. Aguilar, if I understand your what you're saying properly, would be no, and 2 reasons. Number one, the rule addresses rezoning. This is moving a program as opposed to rezoning. And number 2, if children are in a program, and this is my concern. A lot of times, students sign up for a program to go to a certain school, and that is not what the program is there for. Therefore, if they're in the program, they should follow the program. So I would say no.
Dr. Shusso?
We're going to have to get Bobby to check LHSAA eligibility. I'm not sure a program move. I don't want to say something that is not correct, but I'm not sure if, well, I'm being honest, I'm not sure if a kid transfers based upon a program moving, whether or not that kid. Now, I think there are special situations once we contact them and let them know that a program is moving. But at the same time, to answer Doc's question, the individual policy that we have in place as of right now, it addresses rising seniors. Is that correct?
It's rising upperclassmen at every level, either 4th and 5th graders at an elementary school, or 7th and 8th graders at a middle school, or 11th and 12th graders at a high school.
Okay, so if the Health Academy moved, I mean, there are folks in the audience that would like to know, if the Health Academy moved, then all current freshmen and sophomores, if they'd like to stay in the program, obviously go with the program. If they would like to, well, all current freshmen and sophomores, basically, I guess that's the only folks that it affects, because all current juniors have the option to stay at the school. Correct? Correct. Okay. Yeah, no. Well, all juniors would be considered rising seniors. So all freshmen and sophomores that are in the program, then if that's the only way that they can attend that school, then they would have to either leave the school or go with the program. But all juniors have the option that if they'd like to stay, then they can stay. Just if you guys can get Mr. Bato to check the eligibility situation sports-wise, and then as well, policy-wise, to answer your question, I'd like to look at it on an individual basis, but basically when you look at something on an individual basis, once you decide for one group, let's say 2 programs move, let's say, I can't even pick 2 right now, because it looks like every program that you pick would be at Lafayette High. I'm just being honest. It's the complete. The reason why this is being discussed is because Lafayette High has that much many more students. That's not proper English. Let me try it again. They have a lot more students than, I'm trying my hardest. They have that many more students than everyone. For instance, 2,500 students versus 800 at Northside. And when you look at that, that's why we're bursting at the seams there. So when you remove a program with 350, 400 kids, put it somewhere else, drops one, add some into another group. So I guess whenever we do decide what,
Right.
Whenever we
get
do
the
decide,
recommendation,
then,
we'll
it'll be one wraparound policy as is that's in place anyway.
Ms. Morris?
It seems that the answer to that question may be dependent on what recommendation staff brings to us, so I would hope that included in the recommendation for program changes would be staff recommendation also for how to handle the students, the seniors, or whatever the staff thinks.
You're correct. It's not going to change the recommendation. If we propose program changes, it's not going to be based on the administrative rule or applying that rule to the situation.
Mr. Lachele?
Mr. Hefner, on a different note, I mean, we all know this district hasn't rezoned, a total rezone in what, over 30 years?
Oh, well over that. I've been following the system since the mid-'70s, and I can't ever remember a comprehensive zone plan done. We've taken maybe middle school or some elementary, but nothing comprehensive.
In your opinion, if we do a full rezone in the 17-18 school year, to remain positive in that direction, when should this district and whatever board is serving, do you relook at it in 3 years? Do you relook at it in 5 years? What's a good plan moving forward so that this district doesn't end up in the same situation?
If we do this the way I'm anticipating it, you really shouldn't have to make any zone adjustments for probably 5 years. And then at that point, it's probably going to be back to spot zoning. The only thing I'd recommend to those boards at that time, if you're going to make a spot zone change for an elementary school, is that you make the respective change for the for the middle school and then for the high school zone, and make it a comprehensive change and not just one area, because that's how we got to where we are right now. The last comprehensive zoning we probably did was part of the DSEG case, probably when we had to go to zones and create the zone. That's probably the last time it was ever done comprehensively. It's been all cut up since then.
I think this gives parents, you know, kind of an idea of if another rezone is done, it's 4 to 5 to 6 years down the line, and it won't be as drastic. I would guess it would not be as drastic as this one.
We've had a lot of demographic changes over the years. We've had a lot of demographic changes just since our desegregation case. Our last zoning of any consequence was probably with the opening of J. Wallace James in 2004. So we've had a lot of changes in that time demographically. What this is going to do is bring all this up to speed, and we're going to get back on a level playing field to rebalance our population of students among the district, make full use of the facilities that we do have. Also want to mention, it was touched upon here and also touched upon it in my report to you, is the transportation. We're doing a comprehensive rezoning here. This is the ideal opportunity to do a comprehensive review of your bus routes, because now we're going to be making changes in where these kids are picked up and where they're brought. So it's really going to necessitate changes in your bus routes. So I would see that as a parallel effort to this is looking at streamlining your bus routes, and also any changes you may want to make to the type of transportation you want to provide for programming, schools of choice, and that kind of thing. That would be an ideal time to implement those as well. So this is a pretty big area, but I tell you, I think as I envision it, once we get it all in place, it's going to run really smooth. I think we're going to have a very smooth, very efficient school district that's going to be making full utilization of our facilities that we have, and transportation system that hasn't really had a major overhaul in quite some time. Last one we did really wasn't even done properly, but one of the things I plan on doing is working with transportation to try to work with them on the bus routing itself, so we can make sure that we keep the bus loads up and keep the miles to the minimum and travel time for students to a minimum.
Mr. Dalgo?
Yeah, Mr. President, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Mr. Centenni. I think at some point, it may have been during the last spot rezone, or maybe separate, but I think you proposed a policy that we voted on that the school system would look at rezoning, spot rezoning, whatever, every 3 years. Did we not vote on that?
That's a part of the administrative rule, and it doesn't say that we will. I mean, I guess we would look at it. It says the superintendent will report to the board at least every 3 years on any demographic or population changes that may require spot rezoning. And that's, 3 years later, the superintendent may have a report that says, man, those are some good lines. So there's no need. Sure. But at least every 3 years is what the policy says.
Thank you.
Now, I'm gonna recognize you one more time, Timmy, and then we're gonna need to move on. Go ahead. We're way past the 3-person mic rule. Go ahead, Dr. Chasson. We can discuss it all night. We don't have a motion or anything. Go ahead.
Okay. Dr. Aguilar, if you can include in that selected spot rezoning, I know we were talking about program relocations, but selected spot rezoning that if there are some for Mr. Hefner that just make complete sense, if it can be included in that for possible recommendations. And I just know of one that I can think of that is makes sense to me where kids that live in the Macomb and Visa area live 2 blocks from here have to wake up crack of dawn in the morning and go to Como when they can just go a mile down the road and come to Northside. It only makes sense to me. So maybe even those recommendations, because even, I mean, in campaigning and living there, and I mean, it's just been always a constant, why do we have to go to Como? If they can include those as well, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I'll work with Mr. Hefner, and if we have any of those recommendations, we'll bring it to the board's attention.
Mr. Broussard?
Mr. Angel, I think unless we have something before us to go by, like you said, we can discuss this all night long and what if, but unless we've got something before us so we can decide what's best work for us, then we just entertaining a conversation. I would trust that Dr. Aguilar comes with a solution, or at least something on the table for us to have a conversation about, and all the fine print be done later. Every last one of us got an idea what can be done, but we don't know what should be done. So we're going to have to move some programs. Transportation is going to be affected. Hope we save money by rezoning and relocating, and have all schools at a balanced amount of students, and we ought to be functioning at a much better pace.
Thank you, Dr. Broussard. And before we move on, I want to make just one comment, and that is, and we don't normally speak for each other, but this board is looking at these changes with one thing in mind: the betterment of the education of our students. We're not doing this to take care of a board member. We're not doing this to take care of teachers. We're not doing it to take care of anybody on the central office staff. Everything that we're going to do, every move that we're going to make ultimately is going to be for the betterment of our students. That's the only reason we're going to do anything. That's the only reason we do anything, is to better the educational process for our students. Okay, with that, let's move on to the introduction items. Thank you, Mr. Hefner.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll read the introduction items again. That's we'll have about 3 weeks or almost a month to look further into them if you want before we act on them. 6.1, policy revisions for section G of the policy manual. 6.2, revision of policy JGCC, communicable diseases. Section 6.3, auto liability insurance limits for contract buses. 6.4, extended year learning. 6.5, elementary grade level alignment. 6.6, relocation of existing pathways program from the W.D. and Merrick Baker, I think it should be Smith Career Center, to La Rosen. 6.7, high school dress code modification. 6.8, summer school deficiencies. 6.9, approval of new job description, coordinator of counseling services and student placement. 6.10, approval of a revised and updated job description, academic auditor. 6.11, approval of new job description, world language immersion specialist. 6.12, contingent approval of a reduction in force by the Lafayette Parish School Board is requested in the event that such a reduction in force may be necessary. 6.13, budget revision for school board technicians overtime pay. 6.14, to approve the RFP, recommendation RFP 12-16 grant evaluation. 6.15, approval of RFP recommendations for RFP 21-16 grant writing and technical assistance services. 6.16, eligibility consideration of employee to receive the 14th sales tax check from October. Those 16 items are going to be action items at the next meeting. Now we will move on to time-sensitive action items. The ones with an asterisk have not previously been introduced. We had that discussion. These have not been introduced, and I want the public to know that. Right, the one with the asterisk is the one that has not. 7.1 is approval of finalized lease terms for Track 9, Section 16 Ridge. We have a motion to approve 7.1, second by Mr. Lachelet. Any questions or discussions from any members of the public? Members of the board? Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
She's chairman.
While they're voting, let me assure you that Dr. Aguilar and I and the staff are doing everything we can not to have these kinds of time-sensitive items, but from time to time, they just come up. I mean, they just, the next one is a good example. We're working on that new high school, and, you know, contracts come up, and we just don't have any other choice.
9 for, none against.
Thank you, Ms. Melva. Item 7.2, approval of specialty consultants for the new high school. I don't know if Mr. Bordelon or Mr. Aguilar wants to comment on that.
Well, since it's on action, I'll go ahead and move approval.
All right. Motion and a second by Ms. Mary Morrison.
And then I would, as the maker of the motion, I'll follow your footsteps and ask Mr. Bordelon and Mr. Eric to come forward.
And thank you for making the motion. You helped me out.
Good evening, members of the board. Kyle Bordelon, Director of Planning and Facilities. As I state in the agenda item, that due to the size and complexity of this high school project, we have some additional specialty consultants that we're recommending for the following work. A security consultant to work with the design architects on the security package, acoustical consultant to assist in developing acoustical treatments and sound systems for the gymnasiums, black box theater, the dining hall. Some enhanced construction administration observations by the design team. Because this is such a fast-track project, the current contract with the architect requires them to be out there once a week. There's going to be some times where they're going to need to be out there multiple times per week, so we're recommending some enhanced construction observation work. The drainage impact study that's required by the city of Youngsville, that's required to show that there's going to be a net zero impact on the drainage that is going to go into the streams, coulees, ditches around that site. And the civil engineering associated with the water sewer lines that will be installed on the project site that will basically loop around the building. Once these are installed, we'd like to dedicate those over to the city of Youngsville so they would have those to maintain. And it would, in doing this, it would allow us not to have to install 2 very large backflow preventers that have to be continuously inspected once a year and maintained. I do have one correction to make on the security consultant. I had a fee shown of $149,100. That fee has actually come down to $99,275 through some work that the architect has done with them to make sure there was no overlaps in coverage of which consultants are doing what work. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them this time, or Mr. Eric Crozier is here from the design team.
I have a question.
Any questions? Yes, Dr. Chasson?
Weren't any of these included in the original costs?
No, sir. These consultants are not typically included in the standard design fee.
Mr. Bordelon, might I point you to the last line in the agenda item that says the consulting fees stated above were an expected expenditure and were budgeted in the project budget for the new high school?
Yes.
Yes, they were budgeted in the overall project, but they are not part of the typical design fees in an architect's contract. Did I understand? Did I answer that?
It didn't answer it for me. I need a little help with that. The original costs, give me a second.
Let me see if we know that we know in budgeting for this project, because of its size, because of its complexity, there will be some additional consultant work to be done. So we did budget monies in the project for these things, but they are outside the typical architect's contract.
So 149, 52, 75, 59, 5, 14, 5. So we're at 350. So you say 149 went down to 99?
Yes.
Okay, so we're at 300.
Yes, sir.
I'm not understanding if they were an expected expenditure and they were budgeted.
It was expected, it was budgeted.
So this is already paid for.
Well, it's not paid for, but it is budgeted. So we're asking for permission to enter into these consulting contracts so that we can pay for them.
Okay, so you're not asking for more money, it's already budgeted.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, so do these things not have to be then bid out? Because some of the explanations, such as this person is already working with this particular design team, so they recommended that someone perform that work? I don't think that's how this works. I don't think that's how that works, does it?
We had already gotten, well, like on the first couple of consultants listed, the design team has gotten 3 proposals. And the recommendation is to go with the firm listed.
Mm-hmm.
And on the civil, we had gotten 3 proposals at the beginning, correct?
Yes.
Yes, on the civil engineer, which is the last 2, the drainage impact study and the civil engineering services with the water sewer. Before the design got started, the design team did obtain 3 proposals from 3 different civil engineering firms. Ron Kortz Ostricker was the one chosen to assist with the design team. And since while they are doing all these other calculations for the site, it's just natural to go with them for this drainage impact work and the water sewer lines.
Okay, let me ask you this. So these different companies that submitted proposals, who did they submit them to?
To the architectural design team.
Is it a possibility that other people maybe weren't aware that there was work to be done? Or how did folks know? Like, for instance, for us, we put out an RFP, RFQ. How did folks get to know about submitting for possible work with this particular team?
The design team contacted consultants that were in the field of work that we were looking for, whether it was civil engineering, whether it was security, whether it was acoustical. They know of specialty consultants out there, so they contacted at least 3 consulting firms, gave them a scope of work, and asked them to submit proposals. It was not advertised as an RFP, but again, due to the speed that we're moving on this project, we did obtain 3 proposals.
Can anyone come back and say that they weren't aware and it wasn't a fair process based upon the amount of money?
I believe there could be someone who could say they were not aware of it. In fairness, I think we've gotten 3 proposals. I think Mr. Guidry and the purchasing department will be satisfied with that.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Yes, Mr. Bordelon and Dr. Chasson. I don't see an issue here, and I want you to speak to this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Two-parter. Number one, because of the process we use, CMAR process, I believe that decision, doesn't lie necessarily with the school system, but more so with the consultants or the architects that we've chosen. I'd like for you to correct that. So, we certainly didn't break any rules. There were no rules for us to follow. But secondly, if it was already budgeted and it was already approved, can you explain to me why you're asking us to vote on it?
Because of the amount of money that we're talking about.
So you're asking us to just approve for you to move forward with that amount of money, similar to the vote we made a week ago regarding some of the
furniture fixtures
and stuff.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So you're asking us to approve the amount of money, not the scope of work, because that was already approved.
Right, the scope of work is already in there, but the funding, we wanted to make the board aware of the funding that would be expended.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Broussard.
Mr. Bordelon, I understand what Mr. Shashon was asking. I'm getting questions on a regular basis as to how do they find out what work is going on in the school system that they can bid on. And I don't know what process is used to let the public know that this is going up for bid or this is going up for construction. What can you tell me or tell the public? How do we find that information out? Just go to the website, or when you decide to build a, let's say in addition to Prairie Elementary, what's the procedure? Is it up for anybody's bidding?
Mr. Broussard, any project that goes out for public bids, we do advertise in the newspaper. That's a requirement from the state of Louisiana. We follow those. We follow that. We do follow that. We are in the process of trying to post more of our advertisements on our website. But again, those would be for projects, smaller construction projects or even larger construction projects. For the architectural selection, we had a very large RFP. We had a whole process that we went through. We included interviews, included site visits, but that was an RFP that was advertised in the newspaper also. These other consultants are, in a sense, falling under the umbrella of the architect, but not being paid through the architect.
I understand. A couple of meetings ago, I had asked if there was any line item or something about small business, and it's not part of that, but I'd like to see us being involved with a small business. I don't know if it's pertaining to any of this work here, but it can save a tremendous lot of money if we can rely on some of the small businesses in our area, give them an opportunity to bid. Like I said before, a lot of them don't know what's going up with, in the school board as far as what they can bid on, and if the process is bidding publicly, that's not for every project, just certain ones that does not involve the architects. The engineer.
Dr. Shashon?
Here's my issue, and I don't want to make it out to be a big one, but for me it's just boiling me over. I'm a little confused. Someone else vetted these folks. Let me stop using folks. Someone else vetted this particular security consultant. It wasn't our insurance committee. It wasn't our building committee. I don't know what the rubric was that was used to vet these folks. I don't know if someone lost by 1 point or 2 points, or even if it was a point system. Someone else decided, but yet you need my approval to hire these specialty consultants. And that's a problem for me. When staff comes to us and says, hey, listen, well, previous to 2012, we need your approval for this principal. Well, staff had went through the process, they vetted it, we know the staff, fine. It comes to us. Now it doesn't come to us anymore. This, it's already paid for, it's been budgeted, and I don't know what the deadline was. I have no idea what was requested of them. I'm just being told that three different entities applied, and we'd like to give it to this person. And it's not your recommendation, Mr. Bordelon. It's the recommendation of the individuals who actually got the resumes. So I just have an issue with it. And that's a lot of money. I've already been budgeted. Again, I agree. Money's ready to go. But who's to say what the process was? I hear there were 3 folks. I don't know. That's the issue that I'm having with this.
Mr. Knizik?
Mr. Bordelon, what is the fee that we are paying for the design?
For the design of the building?
The design of the school.
That's,
Design services.
we're following the Louisiana State fee curve.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. What are we paying? Do you remember?
Eight,
Even orders of magnitude are good for me.
6.8%,
6.8% of
the construction cost.
65 million, am I right?
That's about 60 right now.
60 million, so
4 million.
$4 million. Okay, so, when you say this money's budgeted, is it coming out of that $4 million?
No, sir.
So this is money being requested in addition to the $4 million
Yes, sir.
that we would pay the architect, and the architect would then write subcontracts to these vendors, or are we writing the checks to these vendors?
We'll be writing a separate contract to these vendors, and we'll be writing the checks to them.
So LPSS is doing, I mean, that's answering your question. LPSS is going to be the entity hiring these contractors.
Yes, sir.
And we're getting a recommendation, I'm just trying to understand all this. So we're getting a recommendation from the architect to write a check or essentially hire these contractors with very little information. The part that I'm more concerned about is what is or isn't in the scope of the design. And I've never built a school. I am a civil engineer, so I do understand A&E fees and the delineation. The ones that I have the most problem with are civil engineering services. To me, that is and should be a part of that $4 million that we're paying. If it's not, then I'd just like to hear how it's not. The drainage impact study seems to be an additional requirement required by the city of Youngsville, so I can understand that. It's something that would not have been anticipated necessarily by the A&E firm. The enhanced construction administration observations, when we let the contract for the design, were we clear on the projected opening date of the high school? Did we say we want a high school built so we can open it by this date?
Yes, sir, I believe we were.
So if we did, then in my opinion, everyone knew that we were on this type of construction timeline. So I have a problem with that one. And again, this is just open for discussion. I would love to hear how we're not. Acoustical consultant. I mean, it seems like if we're going to build an auditorium and use facilities for music and chorus and band, that those types of specialty design items should have been included. And I'd like to hear how that's not. Security, I think that's justifiable. Maybe that wasn't crystal clear in the design requirements. So I'd just like to hear, I guess, a little bit more on some of the, because we're asking for, I guess, a couple $100,000 here. And when we're already paying $4 million, it seems like, I don't want to say we're being nickel and dimed, because maybe that's not fair. I just need to hear a little bit more about why the specific ones I mentioned, I went from the bottom up, we can go from the top down, are not included or shouldn't have been included in the $4 million we're already paying to design the school.
Since Mr. Crozier has a lot more experience with working with other government agencies and other private owners on projects, I'd like to let him answer some of those concerns.
That'd be great, thank you.
President Angel, Dr. Aguilar, board members, Eric Crozier, Abel Crozier Davis Architects. Thank you for the potato, Mr. Bordelon. Which one do we want to start on first? Let's see.
We can start from the top.
Security consulting. Well, first, I'll have to check and see, but I don't necessarily think we were involved in the idea of the 2017 delivery until after we were engaged. So I don't think that was, we'll have to look at the RFP, but I don't know that we necessarily knew it was the timeline. So that could answer one of the other questions. Security consulting is not something that, you know, on the state, we use the state fee curve, and we looked at that state fee curve as to what I would do with the state. So the state, I am carrying civil engineering services. Right now, we're paying 5 times to the civil engineer what you're seeing on this paper. So we're paying for civil engineering, which is a little further down. Security, acoustical, those are services that are typically not something that we would carry. We've never carried those services before. So it seems like a lot of money, but there is a tremendous amount of man hours that are going to be going into this project. So it is something we've got to monitor, we don't necessarily have to have a security consultant. We don't have that expertise. Our electrical engineers don't have that expertise. We can mount some cameras, but I can't tell you where they're supposed to go and where they should go. This consultant would be the person that would tell us where we need bullet-resistant glazing and where we don't. And, you know, based on the research of recent events all the way back for the last probably 15 years. So I can't tell you where we should put bullet-resistant glazing and be right. You know, if you want me to do it, then it's going to cost a lot more because I'm going to put it everywhere. So I think that this person's going to be able to provide us a safe building with their expertise that we just don't have. The same with the acoustical consultant. And the security consultant's also going to be providing us with some technology advice as well. So acoustical is going to be also AV, which is, again, not something that we've got the expertise for. So, and it's not typically part of a designed service. So, you know, we understand obviously the basics behind what acoustics and what needs to be, you know, what acoustical tiling, carpet, and how, and the effects that those have. But, you know, when you look at their scope, they're looking at the gym. If we don't do that correctly, you're not going to help. You're not going to hear yourself think. And in the, you know, there's areas that they're really going to focus on. So it's just not something that we would typically provide. The enhanced construction administration is completely due to the speed of the project. If we can be out there when they need us, then, and more frequent, we can answer their questions right there, make the decision right there, eliminate paper, you know, we can eliminate a lot of time and keep them on track. Our contract currently indicates once a week, which parallels the state. You know, we've got to be on site once a week. No problems with that. We can go back to that if you want. I think it potentially might put the, put the finish time at risk, but we'll certainly do whatever we can to help with that. I think this was a request. It makes some sense to us that those observations take place. The drainage impact study and the next one, again, you know, that's analyzing it is a zero impact. So it goes with the impact analysis of the area. They also want us to look at the coulee, the main coulee that's on the north side of the site, and also the lateral coulee that's coming in on the west side of the site. So they want all of that. They want all of that studied, and so that's where those man hours are coming into play. So it's that, it's the drainage impact study, it's the detention analysis for that, and the study of the lateral and the main coulee itself, in order to generate and look at the tailwater, which is a little further down. So there are a lot of issues out there right now. That agricultural property is sloping right now. Over time, it's been agriculture for decades. And as the crops have been planted, all that water is pushing toward those neighborhoods right now. So this analysis will be able to show them, or anybody that challenges that project, that you know, we're not putting any more water into that system. We're actually going to fix the majority of the issues of any water that we would be pushing onto their site. We're going to repair that. So that's, of course, work that we're paying for. But, you know, in the end, I think even the tailwater design is a smart decision, something that on a project like this, Youngsville would have asked for anyway. But I think what it's going to do ultimately is have the data available in case someone brings an issue, my property got flooded since you guys have been on site, that we can show them what the math is telling us. So I don't know if I was able to answer all
the
of your
final
questions.
one. I understood the numerical model, but the next one, the loop design, how is that an additional requirement?
It's a lot less about the design of the pipe. We're paying for that. It's the work and that's going to go into the survey and all of the dedication and the platting of the easement that's going to go around the building. So we were able to cut, I guess those backflow preventers were about $50,000, $60,000 a piece. So we took those out. We were able to take those out by donating this property to Youngsville in the form of an easement, and then they get to maintain that sewer line. We got fire hydrants every 500 feet around the building. There's a cost associated with yearly maintenance of that fire hydrant. So by us allowing that property to be donated, allowing that property to be an easement, we could donate the lines back to the Youngsville. They would maintain it. They would check the fire hydrants. They would, and then those backflow preventers, they decided all of a sudden they don't need them. So they're not going to put them in either. So, you know, it's, we ended up being in the positive with that, even with paying them for the platting. We are paying them to do the design work on the pipe itself. This is just for the platting part.
Okay, I think I understand then I'll start from the bottom up again. I understand the reason for we're not talking about obviously all this needs to be done. I agree with everything needs to be done. What I'm trying to get to is, was it already included in your compensation or not, right? So that's what I'm trying to clarify. So the bottom, the bottom issue, the $14,500, I understand that we made a decision to donate some property. That's a change in the scope. Therefore, you have to do some engineering to make that work. I got that. The numerical model, I see how that could be an unanticipated additional requirement from the city of Youngsville to do this numerical model of the drainage. I got that. I'm going to skip the next one. Acoustical consultant, I'm 50-50 there. I could lean either way. I guess the issue that I have is if I had hired you to design an auditorium, then I would have expected the anticipated use of the auditorium to be acoustically pleasing. So I would have assumed you would have included a specialist in that. But again, I'm 50-50 on there. I trust your judgment, and I can see how that's an additional scope. The security consultant, yes, I do believe that is a requirement potentially added after, so additional scope. The one I think that I have the most concern with is the enhanced construction administration and observations. I do believe that we need observations. I do understand the pace of the contract. If we only required it for once a week, yet also we're clear on the due date, I guess that's bad on us. So, thank you. Thank you for the explanation.
Dr. Aguilar, two things. One, I've had the privilege, I guess I'll say, of kind of being involved step by step with this process. So I do know from a budget standpoint, from a timeline standpoint, from every standpoint, what you all are going through. I understand that and respect that. And that's why anything that you bring to us like this, I'm going to support, because I know that you're personally and your team is heavily involved. My question that I have for you, though, is didn't we approve recently, didn't we give you a certain amount that you're allowed to go out and spend, basically, without coming to the board, a one-time amount?
Yes, sir, you did. But we're thinking it was $75,000 was the
Okay.
limit.
Okay, and 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 or 75 or less. I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
Dr. Chasson?
Mr. Hidalgo, I understand the point. I understand the point that you're getting at, but I don't know how to put cameras in, and apparently they don't either. So with that being said, in the design of a school, then that's to me that's common sense. And what's the terminology, Mr. Kniezek, for the $3.9 million, the 6.5%?
I guess we call it the design fee.
The design
Yeah.
fee. In the design fee, why wouldn't this be included? As well, drainage impact studies. Every local government requires drainage impact analysis. I mean, it's commonly understood. Mr. Kniezek said it already. I have to echo it. If you're coming in to build a high school for us, and we need a gym and an auditorium, and we don't want sounds echoing, I prefer it for it to be like the Seattle Seahawks a situation set up with the 12th man where you really have a statistical advantage, but to me, it's to be understood. And besides all of those issues which have been raised, if I'm gonna cut the check and it's gonna come from LPSS, then LPSS needs to vet these folks as well, because otherwise I'm just taking someone's word on it. And listen, for me, it's hard enough taking staff's word sometimes. Not that I don't trust staff, but it's if I don't have the resume or a hyperlink for me to click for me to look at it, then inevitably I'm just taking someone's advice that I know we're supposed to trust, and I do, but at the same time, this is coming from a complete separate outside entity, and we're cutting the checks for it. And I just foresee problems of someone coming back and saying, well, man, you guys put out $99,000 for a security consultant? I could have did that for 60 grand. Oh, really? Well, why did you apply? Well, I didn't know anything about it. Where was it listed? Where was it posted? These are folks that have worked with this individual company before. I'm not trying to say the individual company is doing anything wrong, but at the same time, I just have some issues with it. I support every bit of it. If we need it, if we really need it, then I support it. Not trying to hold this process up, not at all. But at the same time, we're cutting the checks. I think we need to do the vetting process.
Okay, I think we've pretty much discussed this item here. If there are no other questions, I'll call for the vote. That's it.
Eight, 4, 1 abstain.
Motion carries. That's the last item on the agenda. I'm going to declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.